Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Surprise Arizona Planning and Zoning Commission, February 2nd, 2023. Let's see, you can do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Chapman,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Rosenbaum, Chair Sartor,
Here.
Vice Chair Holland,
He has an excuse.
Commissioner Keating,
Here.
Commissioner Bash.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Abrams.
Just one item tonight, Chair. We are going to have a joint work session, special work session, February 23rd. You'll get an invite. That'll be at City Hall, and that's
All right, at this time, I'll open the call to the public for anybody that wishes to speak to the commission on a non-agenda item.
No, Sheriff.
Hearing none, I'll close the call to the public. On to agenda item number.
Consideration and action to approve or disapprove the January 19th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Commissioner Chapman,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Chair Sartor,
4.
Vice Chair Holland, Commissioner Keating,
4.
Commissioner Bash.
4.
Motion passes with 6 votes in favor.
On to regular agenda item, which requires a public hearing. Item number 2.
Presentation and discussion pertaining to a major general plan amendment to change approximately 3,588 acres from neighborhood character area to employment character area, generally located east of US 60 Grand Avenue and Black Mountain Road, currently in unincorporated Maricopa County, case FS 22-0502.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. This item before you is known as the US 60 Black Mountain Major General Plan Amendment. The subject site is located north and east of US 60 and Grand Avenue and bounded on east and west sides by 235th Avenue and 211th Avenue on the east. The site is currently within unincorporated Maricopa County and is undeveloped vacant RU 43 property. There is a portion of the property, though, that abuts our current city boundaries, shown in yellow to the east at the southeast corner along 211th Avenue. Within our general plan, the subject site is currently under the land use designation of neighborhood character area, with 2 strips of open space traversing the site north-south.
We can't hear you. Can you talk louder?
Sure, we can talk to the microphone or something?
Yes. So the current property is that better? Okay. The subject site is designated as neighborhood character area under our current general plan, with 2 strips of open space traversing the site from north and south that follow some existing washes. The applicant is proposing to change the land use designation of the subject site to employment character area to accommodate a potential future regional industrial rail facility that would could potentially support uses such as warehousing, manufacturing, distribution, and other industrial type businesses that are benefit from proximity to access to rail. The 2 open space strips that traverse the site going north and south are not currently being proposed to remain due to the fact that they have not gotten to the point where they are at any sort of design phase yet. So not knowing how those washes will be dealt with, they're electing to not retain those. Per state statute and the land development ordinances, the applicant held neighborhood meetings. One was virtual and one was in person. Both were held in October. We received questions, comments, and concerns regarding traffic, water, the environment, environmental issues, and site uses and activities. We also, per state statute, sent the application out to outside reviewing agencies and other concerned entities. We only received a few comments from Peoria regarding roadway alignment and open space. And then in addition to that, we received over 850 no to annexation letters, not directly related to this project, just in general, but we wanted to make sure that those were noted. So per state statute, major general plan amendments have to go through 2 Planning and Zoning Commission hearings and 1 City Council public hearing. So this is the first of the 2 Planning and Zoning Commission hearings. As such, there is not a need for a recommendation at this time. That will occur at the next meeting on February 16th. With that, I'll take any comments or questions.
Okay, thank you. Did the applicant have any, a presentation they wanted to provide before?
We can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, no problem, ma'am. Does the applicant have anything that they wanted to present to the commission or the public on this agenda item?
I do. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Nick Woods, Snell and Wilmer, 1 Arizona Center, and I represent BNSF Railroad. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I want to talk a little bit about this process before I actually get into my presentation. I know a lot of people are here anticipating seeing site plans and building elevations and you know what it's going to look like as far as what's being proposed. And unfortunately, this is the first step in a multi-step process. All we're asking you to do, although this is information tonight, but next, I guess 2 weeks from now, what we'd be asking you to do is make a recommendation to City Council regarding just the general plan. Of course, the general plan is a statutory creature. Basically, in order for us to develop and rezone the property, whatever we apply for with respect to rezoning has to be in conformance with the general plan. Right now, the general plan is just for residential. So if we could go to the first slide, please. Next slide, please. So right now, you know, our firm assisted BNSF in purchasing this property from the State Land Department just this past year. And of course, below that, BNSF acquired an existing piece of property back in 2004. And once they applied for that, once they bought that property, then of course they applied for their own general plan amendment for that particular site. And if you take a look at the next slide, you can see where that purple area is on the bottom. That purple area was the piece that they acquired back in 2008. And of course, they went through the same process. They came to you as a body, they came to the City Council as a body, and the City Council approved that as employment. So what we're asking you to do, again, as part of this process, is to make a recommendation to the City Council. We can go to the next slide. Basically, to change the general plan designation from the neighborhood, rural, suburban, urban, to employment. Which would allow us then to file our zoning case, allow us, again, show everybody site plans and building elevations and all the things that we're going to see. And with respect to that process, again, if the City Council approves this application, then we'll be filing that zoning case. As part of that zoning case, we'll be having meetings directly with neighbors before we even come to you. So as you saw, you know, in the slide, we've already had a couple of meetings, you know, with neighborhood groups just for this. Again, it's basically just a color on a slide. But we'll be meeting with them individually. We'll be meeting with them as a group, again, to share with them what this will ultimately become. But right now, we don't have anything to share because there's nothing for us to propose until the city council makes a decision on this application. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. This time we'll open it to the public and let them address the commission with their concerns. So, Alyssa, how many requests did we receive tonight?
Yes, Chair Sartor, we've received one email and one in person.
Okay, hold on one sec. Can we turn the volume up on the microphones, please? Okay. Alyssa, can you say that again, please?
Yes, we have received one email and one in person.
Just one request?
Ye-
Okay, all right, so go ahead.
So I'll start with the email.
Hold on one second. It seems like we have more requests.
Oh.
So let's collect those. Right now, we'll bring them up to Alyssa, and then we'll let everybody have their turn to speak. Just for a general rule, let's keep it to 2 minutes per speaker. And if we can keep the comments focused on what we're talking about tonight with just the general plan amendment. I know there's a lot of questions about some of the other aspects of it. And like the applicant had said, that we're gonna talk about those in subsequent meetings, but we definitely wanna hear from everybody. So keep it to 2 minutes. And if somebody already spoke on a topic or they mentioned something, we don't necessarily need to rehash the same comments for each person that requested to speak. So let's do that, and then Alyssa, if you can start calling up the first person, please.
So I'll start with the email that we have received first from Deborah Zimmerman. We received an email. All members of the Planning and Zoning Commission Board have received a copy of this email. Her main points that she wanted to discuss were as follows: traffic, noise control, and an increase in semi-trucks and railroad.
Okay, thank you.
And next we'll call up Pam Bashaw.
As she's coming up to provide her comments, go ahead. When you get to the microphone, please state your name and your address.
Okay. Can you hear me? I'm short, so I don't want to mess it up. All right, so my name's Pam Bashaw, and I live in Whitman, 28504 North 225th Avenue. And I live in Whitman, and I'm a teacher and a mother, and when we moved out to Whitman, because of the animals' peace and quiet, and we didn't have the commercial or anything like that, we chose to move out there. So did the citizens of Whitman that have chosen to live out there, and knowing that they know that they have to commute in. They know we don't need to bring the jobs to Whitman, because we moved out there knowing that there was no jobs unless you worked from home. And I commute 30 minutes, my husband commutes an hour. Progress looks very different for everybody. Progress for the city and the railroad, their progress is making money and expanding their things. Progress for people who live out, they call it the country, but I love where I live, is making peace and quiet for their family and knowing that it's safe. Bringing in and rezoning and bringing in the railroad brings other things into it with the depot and everything. Transient crime will go up, and the noise, and with the big rigs coming in, who's gonna be responsible for maintaining those roads? Because with more big rigs coming in, they're gonna ruin the roads. They're gonna make the indents in the road, so who's gonna be responsible for that? Is it gonna be the railroad, or are they gonna put it, taxpayers? Who's responsible for that? Many people live there, make their living with the livestock out in Whitman. How is that gonna be protected? How is the well water not gonna be polluted with all the railroad and all that stuff coming through? How do we know that? Because a lot of us are on wells. So how do we know that that's not gonna be affected? The farmers that are already there, because it is free range out of Whitman. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who's the next speaker, Alyssa?
John Anderson.
Commissioner, am I supposed to state my name and address, or just,
Yes, please.
and then if I ask a question, is it answered?
Right now, we're just gonna field the questions, comments, and we're not gonna respond specific to the questions.
Okay. John Anderson, 36002 North 218th Avenue, Whitman, Arizona, 85361. We have two properties, 15 acres. One property is directly affected and neighbors this site on two sides. The other property neighbored is on one side. I was wondering if the record could get set straight on one fact that we did ask at the virtual meeting if Burlington Northern would be willing to survey residents within 3-mile radius of their Kansas City facility for us residents that live in Whitman. The answer was no. And that survey was asked about safety, traffic, and interaction of Burlington Northern with the public. Another item was if I would like this group to consider, and I understand that they are just going for a zoning change. However, that zoning change is to employment, and the question was asked if noise and sound attenuation would be addressed. Their response was no regulation was considered or required. So I would ask that if this was even going to move forward to another consideration, that this would be considered of existing facilities. And one more question that I don't know if this is, they have been surveying the site as it is right now. So and I understand that HDR Engineering is maybe involved in doing some engineering. So I wonder if there is some preliminary site maps available for us to review. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alyssa, do we have the next person, please?
Elizabeth, and is it Oldham? Oldham?
My name's Elizabeth Oldham. I own a property in Whitman at 29330 249th Avenue. I also own a property in Circle City as well. Back in 2004, when BNSF brought that property and we went to the city council meetings, the BNSF representative at that time stated the truck increase was going to be 40,000 trucks per day. That was just for that little tiny spot that they had purchased. Now they've bought another, how many? 35,000 acres? 3,500 acres?
Yes, ma'am.
So how much more truck increase is that going to be if that little tiny parcel was going to put on 40,000 more trucks a day? The roads aren't getting any better, they're not getting any wider. Are there going to be any plans to expand and put more tracks in? They already have their easements. Are they going to make the people that have the property along those easements, are they going to force them into eminent domain to make new easements? Does BNSF notify every town of their hazmat materials that they're transporting on their trains? What's the federal regulations of the train speeds through neighborhoods, and are they abiding by them? Has the Army Corps of Engineers been consulted on the natural washes through that area? What kind of chemicals are they going to be storing at their intermodal facility, which they have already sent out in their information to the residents that this is what it's going to be? Those are huge facilities where they just stack containers on top of each other. What kind of security and fire protection? Are they going to have their own fire department, or are they going to be using North County? Are they going to be using Surprise? What kind of road impact studies have they been doing from the area where they're going to be transporting all these trucks all the way up through Wickenburg and up through 93?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the 2 minutes is up. If you could just wrap up your comments, please.
Okay, environmental impact studies, chemicals, water. There's a lot that's not being disclosed.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Alyssa, if you can call up the next person, please.
Jeff August?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Jeffrey August. I live at 28213 North 253rd Drive, Whitman. I am the president of Keep Us Rural. I represent Whitman and the surrounding areas. We also have 1,706 signatures of petitions to the county to stop Walden Ranch, and the railroad for no rezoning. We have issues about our water. We lost 21% of the water out of Colorado River. Where is BNS going to get their water? Any water study that's done before, let's say, July of last year is inadequate and out of date because of the new study that just came out from Governor Hobbs. Where are they going to get their water? Light pollution. It's a big one. Currently, I'm working right now with International Dark Sky Association to ensure that we don't light up the desert. That's going to be a huge concern. Increasing light out there disrupts the ecosystems, the wildlife, harms human health, and affects crime and safety. We also have some great concerns about that train going right beside Nottaburg School. What happens if there's an ammonia leak? I mean, it's really going to mess up the kids. We have to consider our children, okay? And we implore you guys to please say no to rezoning. It's a bad deal for Whitman. It's a bad deal for Surprise because it's going to come back and haunt us all. Guarantee it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
And the last one I have is for Bonnie Carmen.
Thank you.
Good evening.
I'm Bonnie Carmen, and I live on 21332 West Caravaggio Lane, which is in that small residential area inside that purple square. And I noticed on the first map, it didn't say that it was a neighborhood. It wasn't even labeled a neighborhood. Well, it's a big neighborhood, and many, many people live there.
Ma'am, 1 second. Travis, can you pull that slide up so we can understand what she's referencing?
Oh, yeah. Very first one, I'll show you where.
Thank you.
You can see the lines where the houses are right down below that. And that's where most of the people live out there. So anyway, after listening to everyone, I just came here to talk or to listen to see what was going on. And it sounds like there's way too many unknown variables. It seems like not too many people know what's going to happen to the water, the air, the neighborhood. I was concerned about what would happen. I have property right on Cloud, which is right there at the top of that neighborhood, and how many trucks are going to go by my house to warehouses, et cetera. So after I listened to everybody, I'm not sure that this is the right thing to do. And I hope you guys vote no.
Okay, thank you. Did the applicant want to come back up and address any of those questions? I know there's some of them were outside of the scope of this meeting, but at least give you an opportunity to say anything at all. Yes, sir. I was just going to give the applicant another chance to come up and address any of the potential concerns that are within the scope of this agenda item particularly.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Really nothing to add. Again, this is a first step of many, and the questions that are being asked are all good questions and legitimate questions. But they are things that we'll be able to answer again as we begin to lay out and actually design a project, but we're unable to do that unless and until the city council would approve this general plan amendment.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, did you have another comment or question?
I don't know if it helps her, but can I just respond to this?
At this time, ma'am, we're gonna have another meeting in 2 weeks. You had an opportunity to speak, so we're gonna continue with.
But he didn't have any proof of the rezone without having ducks in a row. That makes no sense.
Yes, ma'am.
No sense.
All right. Commissioners, do we have any questions or concerns at this time? Go ahead.
I'm certainly going to have a lot of questions, to make a recommendation to City Council at the next meeting. And some of the things that I would like to know if it's possible at this time. Obviously traffic is one of the really big issues in this area. I mean, all of the people's concerns, I think, are valid, and I'll want to know more about all of those issues if this moves forward. But I think even to make a recommendation in 2 weeks, what I would need to know first is where is the process, if anywhere, in working with the state to develop a better transportation plan for this part of town to even begin to address any other issues. So if you would have that in mind for the meeting 2 weeks from now, that we could have some sort of answers on that, that'll be very important to me at least in determining how I'll make a recommendation to even really start this process.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Okay, so being just a discussion, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item, which is the regular agenda item, non-public hearing. Is there any other agenda or future business items that the commissioners want to address at this point? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's conduct a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.